Stayed up late last night, up till 1. I was really trying to, of course, be responsive to the things that I heard and make it as current and important to you as I could.
That's very current. If it's downloading right now.
Really good. All right, 43, 45.
Could not be fresher.
So what I was trying to do was to show, okay, so a quick backstory. I came to Humboldt because I wanted to learn how to do protest activism. I recognized, having been already an environmentalist leader in high school and things like that, some skill sets I didn't have yet that I thought were valuable was to set an outside edge. And I came here having already read the Earth First book by Judy Berry. She was bombed by the FBI. And bombed by the FBI in 1991, arrested while bloodied by the bomb squad that had set the bomb. They were the first responders. So like reading how violent the activism was being, yes sir? This isn't necessarily for so I came here also having volunteered for an organization in Honduras in which the executive director had just been murdered and her brother by known murderers who were allowed to leave Honduras. And so I showed up 2 months later at this organization, just had their executive director murdered. And it was Honduras, still a violent place. And so I came back both with this intense desire to push as hard as I can to set an outside edge, understanding that, yes, the middle of the road is something that is defined by two outside edges in most people's minds. And if you don't have an outside edge, you don't really feel like you're in the middle. You feel like you're on the outside edge. Like whatever, so there's some of that perceptual issues. So as I've tried to structure my professional life in a way that doesn't get me murdered, for real, I mean, putting yourself directly into the gears. I was just telling a story. Dr. Ken Owen Wiwa, he was murdered by Shell Oil. He and 9 other activists were hung in Nigeria. And so when I had his brother in my house and it was like staging an event about Shell Oil and leading a protest down to the Shell Oil station owned by a guy, I was like, I have no idea why you're doing this to me. This is just like, how do you succeed as an activist? So trying to find the edge and trying to normalize it so that all of us can move forward as a community is something that, as a naturally edgy person, don't get me drunk because absolutely I go off the fucking rails. I just barely hold it together on normal days. So I'm going to show you what we've done. What are we doing to express this vision of being at the edge, of trying to make this new world physical and tangible? Because one of the things at the demonstration house up on campus, CCAT, where I got to meet Becky, where I got to meet Michael Winkler, and Greg Fotenhauer, and a number of other champions in my life, that's a place where it was 1970s era activists who were responding to the second oil embargo crisis, the one with Iran, that started a demonstration house on campus, the only one that survived the Reagan era wipeout. And so when I arrived there, it was already still existing since 1978, but it's the only one in the whole nation. So that's where I learned building science, is also from people who were edgy. They had founded Earth First in the basement of CCAT. The trees right behind CCAT, Campus Center for Appropriate Technology, were where they built the first, like, how do you climb a tree? And then put a platform up there. They built the platforms in the basement. It was for real. Like, this is, people are trying to make it happen, do the thing. So this is about a premise, a promise. I think that we can do this. We're trying to show it off. The culmination of the presentation is what we're doing in Petaluma. But the basic idea is that solar and batteries plus efficiency can affordably replace the Bay Area gas power plants. I'm not trying to make a statement about Chicago. I'm not trying to say it about New York. We have special conditions around what winter looks like here, for instance, more sunshine, less extreme temperatures. But at the same time, every little red dot that you're seeing here, including the fuel cell one, because that's, hydrogen is sourced 99% from methane. But all these other red ones, these are Dixon Peaker plant, Carson ice generation product. These are all gas power plants that you're seeing here in the Bay Area. One of the most significant contributors to smog in the Bay Area. It's also true of LA, only more so. Next slide. So how do we shut it down? I thought this was fun. This is something that Emily Higbee, our research director and our team, put together, which was, how do you take off-the-shelf solar, and you've been seeing this out there on the deck perhaps, I don't know if someone pointed it out to you, but this is an inverter battery combo that takes a solar array and you just plug it in. plug and play. I think 2 years ago we had a presentation from a fellow from Detroit, and he was showing us how people were getting batteries and solar in their very low-income households to deal with the very fragile power systems there, including one woman who had gone off-grid. She was like sick of it, and she was in her 80s, and she was the hero. So this is possible now today. This is what it looks like if you want to be indefinitely resilient with this scale, camper, that kind of thing. That amount of solar, that amount of battery, day and night, year-round, gets you there. And we are there now technically. Next slide. So I've been trying to spread the word. These are our projects that we've done this last year. This is specific to the Bay Area. This is the focus of this little presentation here. So you might see Hosanna there, right there, see? And Hosanna was excellent in helping me with some of my first experiments in personal electrification, because it's hard to heat a whole house. A whole residence can be too much because the cement cinder block walls, the thermal loads, the high humidity, all sorts of things that we're exploring. So personal electrification, a lot of my staff, friends, things like that have gotten these things so we can see electrified gloves, electrified pet heaters, because a lot of people keep their whole house warm for the pet. I remember walking into like this awesome zero energy apartment complex, the place is empty, and there's 2 dogs watching a TV while the air conditioning is going on. I was like, it's so funny. It's so silly. And so the other thing working on here is getting a cutting board that's specially sized for a gas stove, taking off the burners, popping it down, then using 120 volt options here, including the oven, so you can use the circuits right there and shut off the gas. I'm going to show you something that's going to make you feel sick in a couple minutes, but we're not there yet. So this is a lot of the resources in there, as well as Bay Area specific, highest cost in the country, Bay Area specific electrification costs. Next slide, please. Okay, now I'm getting into the stove stuff. So for years, I've been trying to explain and understand and explain the amount of gas, the pollution that people are experiencing. So on the left, first effort. This is all California Air Resources Board data. They burnt a whole bunch of food and cooked it, and lasagnas and the rest, standard test items. And this is the amount of nitrous oxides that they're getting off it. NOx is this invisible, odorless, very caustic, burns your lungs chemical and gives you asthma, gives you heart stress, because your lungs are connected to your heart, right? It's like they have their own circulatory system that's just special in your whole body. Heart, lungs, cardiopulmonary disease, because they're kind of one organ in many ways. So all this stresses you, gives little old ladies like triple the heart attack medication they would otherwise, proven back in 1994, makes it as bad as they're living with a cigarette smoker. So Alex, our filmographer back here, is also, he's a film student. Thank you, Alex. We worked with his grandma and in his family home, and this is an infrared. You can see for the first time the smoke. You don't know how much smoke is coming off this. I mean, it might as well be burning plastic, except that you don't see the smoke. So this is what the smoke looks like. It's being imaged by the amount of heat that's in it. It's mostly water vapor. Like the smoke is mostly water vapor, but it's also the number 1 source of NOx in your life. Notice this is what it's like in the worst, dirtiest air you can find anywhere in the United States. This is the NOx level, about 60 ppb. 100 ppb is when the EPA comes in and shuts you down. This is what people do in their own home. So we made a cool little video. You burnt a bunch of cigarettes. That was kind of fun, like making it so you try to viscerally understand. Next slide, please. Okay, next level. Thank you, Jesse, for this is some of the last minute work that we did, was to make a calculator to combine these 2 pieces of research. It's not easy to figure out. I mentioned before how gas power plants, why we're shutting them down, this is one of the main sources of smog in the Bay Area. So are cars, and so are buildings. These 3 things are the big baddies. So let's take a car. This is a Ford Focus from 2011. Not an awesome car, not a bad car. It's just a small sedan. Okay, so the NOx that this is producing idling, and keep in mind it has a catalytic converter that's taking out somewhere between 30 and 90% of the NOx. And this is idling over time, so it wasn't the cold startup that's the dirtiest part. It's not the first puff of smoke. It's idling now, so it's kind of invisible amount of gas that's coming out. The milligrams of NOx per hour you're producing is 35. That's what's coming out per hour, 35 milligrams. It's a weight of nitrous oxides. From the stove, we had to do some advanced chemistry here to convert just the metrics, so it's all in the same unit. But one gas burner On a small apartment scale, the smallest gas stove you've ever used has a 7,000 BTU burner. It's a standard small stove burner. If you're using anything fancy in your life, then you're using a 10,000 burner, a 12,000 burner. Sazi's nodding, so I'm correct?
20.
Up to 20,000 BTUs per hour when it's on high. So let's say you're boiling water. You are producing per hour 160 milligrams of NOx per hour using the same metric. That is 4.5 Ford Focuses of exhaust that you're putting in through your window. Can you even imagine 4 cars outside your window being allowed to put the muffler into your kitchen so you can boil water? That is like, whoa. And we didn't know. It took us a while just to get the math right because no one has been publishing this conversion of muffler idling NOx to stove, but that's true. That is how bad it is. That's why it's like living with a cigarette smoker, or why you get actual smog in your house. Sunshine comes in through the window while you're making a bunch of particulate cooking breakfast with a whole bunch of NOx. That is the definition of smog. Not like a little bit either, like the really bad shit. Next. Okay, so to address kitchen stoves, for many years I've been trying to figure out how to do a 120 volt plug-it-in-anywhere version. I used to go, I met Tom at ACEEE summer study, in which I think Lawrence Berkeley National Labs was talking about how we should rewire everyone's home to DC because there's an efficiency gain from DC wiring. There's also some issues. So but the lesson I learned from all of them wasting money trying to figure out how to rewire a house is that you can't rewire a house. Like that's not you don't start there or end there. You try to avoid that at all costs. So we partner up with a company called Copper, and we put in the first 36 of the stoves here, like along this beachfront for the Sherry Heights people. It's a native sovereign nation. It's one of the many groups subjected to genocide. Some of them don't exist except as genetics and people the survivors who had, children with each other. There's almost 20 different sovereign nations up here with different languages and traditions and everything, just in Humboldt County. There's like 5 left. 5 different sovereign nations, and many of them are actually agglomerations of people. So one of those conglomerations are called Trinidad Rancheria, Sherry Heights people. They put in stoves. They opened up their homes. We had to put in the first of these. There were some issues. Kobe and Dylan and Rommel did wonderful work in supporting it. And what we got to see, and this is the important data out of it, not just that we could put in a battery-supported 120 volt stove that worked just like any other stove, which is great. I was hearing from them that every 2 weeks they get a call from somewhere in New York City where a condo dweller has smelled natural gas in the hallway and called the company Con Edison, who shuts down the entire apartment complex that day. And then all the people in the house don't have cooking that day. And they need a stove now. And there's no option for rewiring 60 condos right now. You have to get the stove solution. And so they're selling these things like hotcakes now in New York City, particularly where there's lots of gas leaks. So that's good. It's all good stove good stuff. But it's a $6,000 stove. It's not a solution for a great deal of the population. So the things that we learned from it that I wanted to convey to you, in orange, this is oven energy. And in blue, this is the range top energy. This amount of energy is about equal. People bake at about the same amount. This is 35 households, so a larger data set might reveal slight differences. But with 35 households, great data monitoring, etc. So that's the first thing. Cooking and range top are about equal. Second is that what are people doing? Most of the time, they're cooking with one burner. So 84% of the time, one burner. Okay, 97 was that? 4 plus 3, 97% of the time it's 2 burners, that's it. 3% of the time is all you got left. And of that, 2% is 3 burners, and under 1% is 4 burners. And we were doing this during the holiday season. So we're clear this is like during maximum cooking time, this is why the world works among these 35 households. So this concept, we only need 2 burners. I cook for 3 children, myself, 4 people, sometimes 5, on 2 burners and a toaster oven. So I know it's technically possible, but this is how people are behaving, and that's the context for Sazi's work over at Summit. There's a 3-burner induction range. I brought this data, got to meet Paul, the owner of the company. We all flew to one little airport place and did the data dump to say, please invest $1 million, Summit Appliance, of your own money. Thanks, you got some grants. to make something that matches the data. We can get 3 burners when people are cooking. We can do probably 2 burners and an oven at the same time. This data shows that this is what 2 burners is going. This is 3 burners in dark blue, and 4 burners is this light that you can't really see. So basically what's happening at dinner time is people are using 2 burners in the oven. That's how it's happening. Next slide. So I didn't show the summit because Sazi showed the summit stove. But that's what I'm like, imagine like his 30-minute presentation, like, yes, that fits right in that in-between spot. So now, adding a battery and solar panels to lighting. Maybe 10% of the electricity in the state is just lighting streets. It's a massive amount of electricity that's coursing through the cities. That electricity would be great to be used for EV charging on city streets, pop in a little thing on the sidewalk, and start having these light posts, which this is Eureka, it's a Carson mansion in the back. He served in a genocidal militia for a summer in 1862. He killed people at family level. And he's one of the lesser evils, by the way. This whole place is named after people who killed with their hands and hatchets. Fucking hatchets. So, yeah, it is as sick as it gets around here. It's like literally inspired the Nazis. Like Hitler had a whole set of books that he recommended to everyone that was just stories of the Indian genocide. Not joking. And Germans to this day have a very weird relationship with Native Americans. They have tons of reenactments of being Native American. They're like, this is a cultural phenomenon that Germany's famous for. They're really interested in the genocide of the Native Americans. No joke. So this is Ramel. He's tabling. We're working very hard to reach out to the communities where we're trying to replace lighting and asking them, does this work? How is this working? Do we do the right thing? This is a community engagement process. We table, we give out nice cookies, get the good food. And so Ramel got this quote from one of the people. This is an affordable housing development. It says, it used to be yellow spotlights and we couldn't see in between poles. Now it feels so much brighter. So the tenants report there's less thefts near the carports, feeling safe, taking out the garbage, walking the dogs at night. And these are a battery inside wrapped with a solar panel charging hyper-efficient LEDs. Okay, so I'm saying, like, can we do this? Can we move to solar and batteries in the Bay Area? Next.
I'll just put a little EV charger down there.
Exactly, because electricity is already there, actually.
Right.
You know, we're just starting to not use it in this path. And maybe we might need 5 or 10% of the energy in the wintertime when the solar is out. So we maybe still need that thing to be connected to the grid, but just for a little bit. And that's one of the themes I'm seeing here, is that we just need a little topper here and there with the solar and battery strategy.
Sean, who makes the light poles?
What's that?
Who makes the light poles?
Who makes the light poles? Dylan?
Can't say it.
We're under an NDA. It's an organization over in the East Coast.
Okay.
I mean, it was kind of a big deal for quite a while. They're all like, sign this, sign that.
Those are pretty cool.
Sorry. Soon come.
Okay.
So do it yourself, Midea and gradient inverter heat pumps. So ACEEE hosts a hot water forum, and for many years you can meet HVAC manufacturers at the same time. I worked with them for years, as well as field testing inverter-driven heat pumps. Michael has one in his house, a little portable do-it-yourself heat pump. Because we tried to figure out how much energy do they use, how much the heat do they produce, what are their downfalls. And we made, with the state of New York, multiple iterations of a standard that they put out as a challenge to call for 120-volt, cold climate, window-based heat pumps. And from that challenge, 2 manufacturers set up a shop and said, we'll do it, Midea and Gradient. And so it was a great pleasure to see this New York effort come to California. So the Gradient is one that you put through the windowsill like that. It's a saddlebag, they call it. Inside's an evaporator, outside's a condenser. You pull the heat in and out. It's quiet. The only problem we ran into is window seals. Always issues. Everyone wants to make a $2,000, $3,000 heat pump and then just like, well, I don't know how to put it in. Like, but it's a hole, you know. Like, so they are more efficient than ACs, although, I mean, standard, the ones they're replacing, not a whole lot more, but somewhat. They're quiet, which is not the case with people's window ACs now. Tenants like them. That's just the take home. People wanted to keep them. Since we gave them to them, some of them even sold them to other people when they moved. They're like, cool, have it. Good heat pump. Kobe, do you want to add anything since you did a lot of the field installation work?
Yeah, we learned a lot through the program about the process of installing a portable heat pump or a room heat pump like these.
Speak up.
And one of our main findings is that with complicated steps, with parts that don't have explicit directions, the do-it-yourself heat pumps can be sort of a misnomer. You need a little bit more education to try and teach a resident or a participant how to do the installation correctly, lest you risk damage to the product or other folks. Some of these are on the second floor, so installing them correctly is important. Additionally, the efficacy of the heat pumps was recognized. A lot of these people had existing systems
right there
in that last picture through the wall. Many of those units were non-functioning, and so they were just forced to sort of endure the summer heat this was in Redwood.
Hot.
And so temperatures are like 117 on the porch sometimes. And so they were much appreciated. And like Sean said, very quiet. And
so this piece of junk, it's noisy, it's not efficient, and it produces maybe electric resistance heat at best, so it's not doing any heating in the wintertime, really. And this is a heat pump that works in the wintertime. And this is a cold climate one. And Medea's come out with a cold climate one that's a saddlebag also.
How heavy is it?
Say?
How heavy is it?
80 pounds?
The gradients I think were about 80.
Okay.
And the Medea's were
much
60,
less.
50?
Yeah, probably about like 40.
40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is how many BTUs? 8,000?
That's 8,000, yeah.
And this was 10,000?
No, they're both 8,000.
Yeah. Oh, there was 8,000 BTUs.
Yeah.
So significantly heavier startup company, the largest manufacturer of heat pumps in China. Right? So different places they're coming from. We were installing them when they came in 3 pieces. Now they come in 1 piece. We were part of the product evolution. Very pleased to have been there. Thank you, CalMTA, for funding this question. Should it be called a DIY? Is it a DIY? Well, the improvements should be made. Next slide. But this idea that we can affordably convert and people can do it themselves to a higher performance electric heating in the wintertime particularly, that's what you're getting here. I knew your parents before they even dated because they're both interns of mine. I love this. It's so cute, multi-generational. You held my babies and like that one. So using smart panels and batteries to meet new electrical loads. I should have put solar in there as well because that's actually what we're doing is we're pairing a small individual solar array to a smart panel that has a battery. So if you end up consuming more power than the 60 amp panel, you shift over to the battery, and now you've got your total 70 amps need. We can make it so that either your battery can provide the more power that you need instantly, or it can just supplement it. But the incorporation of batteries and smart panels is a new thing. This is EcoFlow, once again a very large company in China that does them for $1,000. Span is making them for about $2,500. You can get a Lumen for maybe $3,000. You have choices. But the idea that you will never have to worry about a winter peak, which is the hard part for solar, right? So a winter peak in your house triggering a gas peaker plant turning on. If we start incorporating batteries at the home scale or the neighborhood scale or using your EVs, this is one of our grants. We're popping this out. Next slide. This is an example. Love this. We got a big award. It's going to help me get divorced. Yes. Thank you for the money, DOE. So we got that just out the door. So what we did is that Lonnie Grafman, who's a mentor to many of the people in this room, Lonnie, love the man. So we're trying to do some payback. Lonnie is one of the leading professors up on campus. He was homeless when he was young. He's brilliant. He was teaching at the college without an undergraduate degree. He's so smart. And he's helped us make incredible metering equipment. He's been our partner all the way along and trained. I met Jesse when I was teaching, like a guest lecturing in one of his classes. Like so many of us can say thank you to Lonnie. Thank you, Lonnie. So Lonnie, he just got his baby out the door, and I was like, you guys are getting pregnant, and we're gonna do this. We're gonna make your house awesome. We're gonna win the contest at the same time. So we put a bunch of money in, and we got appliances donated as well. And what this is, one house and an ADU that gets converted at the same time. this would normally trigger a 200 amp service. Boom, instant always. And so we kept it on 100 amps. And how we did it, in the 700 square foot garage, we have an Efoca heat pump. We could have done 2. We had 2 to use. We used countertop. So plug it into the existing kitchen circuits. You don't have to wire it. You don't have to measure it as like extra new power. An A.O. Smith heat pump water heater in the residence, which he thinks is a little bit too noisy, but it does have a door. It's supposed to be the quieter of the 2. I'll just continue on the water heater for a second. The second water heater, this is a double wide from 1973, I think it is. Not a great house, you know, and we're all fixing this up. So you open up the water heater door, it kind of falls off, and we had to tear out the interior of the wall because even the 20 3/4 inches 120 volt heat pump water heater, they're both 120, it couldn't fit in a manufactured closet, or like home closet. So we had to tear out the interior wood and put in thinner plywood. Just a little bit. But it got the thing squeezed in. But the reams, this is like COVID, they're too noisy. Like they shouldn't be right next to a bedroom. And they make this manufactured house which is built out of 1x3s and such. It's just too flimsy and it makes too much vibrational noise. So next step, for me at least, is to put interior cork paneling to try to make an acoustic barrier, and both as a continuous insulation on the inside to cover the studs and acoustics. Yeah, Jack?
Rubber drain pan too.
Rubber drain pan.
Yeah, that'll help with the noise.
We can't move this thing at this point.
I have like 10 other
Please.
techniques, but
10 other techniques?
Oh,
No,
to
tell 'em.
mitigate noise. Oh, like, well, yeah, I mean, when you strap it, use a fabric strap instead of a
Fabric
strap. When you, because a lot of it's transitional noise, like the tin can effect of the compressor vibrating,
Yeah.
and then it transmits like a tin can telephone
Yeah.
through the strap into the wall, and that's mostly what people hear. So we've had a lot of success where you strap is not the bedroom wall, strap to an exterior wall or another non-bedroom wall, and then where it's resting against the wall.
Can you talk a little louder?
Where it's resting again. Oh yeah. So a fabric strap. I'm talking about noise mitigation on heat pump water heaters. You want a fabric strap. You want strapped to a non-bedroom wall, preferably an exterior wall. A little bit of like carpet padding or any foam that you put like between the heat pump and the wall, or cork. Also a good idea.
Cork. Yeah.
But so when you strap it and it gets smushed up against
Yeah.
the wall, then you've got that. Like Jack said, a plastic drain pan. We like a plastic or rubber drain pan that's got some I forget the
Corrugation,
name,
like
but it has
ripples.
some corrugation, and that also like it's like, and with all those strategies, we've managed to install many in multifamily housing without the noise complaints, which are not 1x3 framing. That's a different thing,
Right.
but it is pretty close.
Yeah, I get it. No, it's like
So,
so these are things that we didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, and many of us worked on the project ourselves, kind of for the first time, doing some of these things. Yes.
The other thing is you can program the time when it comes
Oh,
on.
that's good.
And he does do that, but still, it's just like a house rattler.
Yeah, but not, you don't want to.
But if you just, because it so frequently
Right.
turns on right after you get out of the shower when you're home. So if you time it so it's a little bit later when you get out of the house. Like,
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say that we do that in mobile housing and work. Like a lot of times the closet is like right behind the master, so
Yeah.
that's why you put a thermal mixing valve on. You go to 140 before bedtime, and then
Ah,
it
so
was
you just
super
don't.
effective. We had a callback 3 days after install, and then 6 months after having implemented this, no callback. So another reason to add thermal storage to mixing.
Yes. So that's the battery. You know, when I met Michael, a little nap. When I met Michael, that was like one of the first conversations we had. Is like he's like, you should be thinking about how to make wax that melts at 138 degrees, so we can raise the temperature of the heat pump water heater with a wax plug there, basically that is a thermal battery. You know, it's phase change material, of course. And that was like one of the first long. It's like, oh, and we actually started doing thermal storage experiments after that. So the one other thing to mention, this is a combined heat pump dryer. So it gets a little bit drier and a little bit hotter. I mentioned the condensing types aren't as good as the heat pump types, but it's a 2-in-1. Over on the big house, we did a DIY, do-it-yourself, pre-charged refrigerant lines, Mr. Cool cold climate heat pump, ducted underneath the house, because that's always where manufactured homes have their hanging duct work, not very well insulated. So you just got to blast heat into it. And it's a 2-3 ton. It's got a dip switch. We set it at 2 tons to keep the power down. And that has worked out great. 2 tons is what that house needed. It didn't need 3 tons. If it did, this little switch, you pop it on, and now it's a 3 ton. It's less efficient, but you get the heating that you need. So we put a flexible do-it-yourself heat pump in. Thank you, Kobe, for your hard work with Lonnie for installing that do-it-yourself for days. Then an induction stove, and what's fascinating is that this NeoCharge, they were our grant partner on this. Thank you, NeoCharge. So a stove has a 50 amp circuit. An HVAC system doesn't need more than a 30 amp circuit. If you make it so that the stove can interrupt the HVAC circuit, just hypothetically, you turn off your stove, like that would mean that you'd have to be burning all 4 burners in the oven at the same time. So you're cranking out electric resistance heat in your house at 40 amps, you know? In that scenario, not only are you actually heating your house a good deal, you turn off the heater at that moment, but it might be an air conditioner during the summer. So now we're like, okay, but what if we make this a 2-ton, 20 amp essentially heat pump, and this is a 40 amp stove on a 50 amp circuit, because code requires you make the circuit bigger. That means that we'd have to be full blasting the stove and the HVAC system on the same current for even one of them to turn off. That's not gonna happen. We're just not gonna, people can't cook that much food on a stove. And so we have the circuit splitter, circuit pauser on this so that the stove and the HVAC system, if they ever got to 50 amps combined, that's when you turn off one or the other. Almost a physical impossibility. We don't think it'll ever happen. But that's how we code compliantly did a 100 amp house that should have been a 200 amp. It was that last little measure, as well as not putting in electric resistance for HVAC, using induction because the resistance is less efficient. Just efficiency at every step, got that done. And we won second place. Next slide. All right, so this is the fun one. So culminating here, this is my favorite little project. So Dan Johnson's my former boss. He's just as intense as that looks. I don't think it's actually that fun to work at his place. I did for 5.5 years, but I respect him greatly for just being ruthlessly capitalistic. So, and I like that because it favors our arguments and any longer term thinking. This is an affordable housing developer. He runs it as a business. And so when I can bring in efficiency options or cheap solar, he built the first zero to energy apartment complex in our country that succeeded. He also did the first housing development that succeeded because it made them money. And that I liked about him. He's 4th generation wealthy local guy, right? All the politics that come with that, all the nonsense, it's all Republican hate radio on both sides of the hallway in the morning time when you walk down. Rush Limbaugh's there, and that guy's there, and around, we hate this, we hate that. So Dan Johnson, he says, can you make it off-grid? PG&E delays are the #1 problem for all of our developments, but he used some F words in that, as that quote. And he's like, absolutely intense. So, next slide. So we're trying this with him. Can we make it off-grid? We got a grant. It was for $1 million to plan it. And we then got the next grant, which is $8 million. And we got the #1. It's like 70 competitors. We all get winnowed down to like, we win, the $9 million. Awesome. Along with 4 other groups, we won like Northern California region kind of thing. And we were the top scorer. Because the Energy Commission got kind of excited by this idea. Everyone knows that PG&E hookups are the worst, awfulest problem. And I was trying to figure out, like, can solar and battery work? So I was at a conference, I met this guy, and this guy turns out that he's setting up mountain communities for PG&E that were off-grid. And he's doing it with a propane generator in the wintertime. He's like, we're 95% off-grid. I'm like, you can do that? He's like, yeah, solar all year round. Granted, we're burning a lot of propane in this town. It's like, okay, so if I convert the propane to electricity and I upscale things, this is already being done. I'm not inventing anything new. Let's go. So what we figured out is that we could put a megawatt of solar onto this project. That's an interesting number because that actually lines up with the 1 megawatt wire that's out in the street. So this is pretty much what you could do with an apartment complex. It's 131 apartments. We talked about putting solar over the roadway. Fire department didn't like that. Maybe we could have figured it out by elevating it 14 feet high, but just anytime you're working with a city on 5 different problems, you have to make some choices. Okay, so we could have gotten to about a 1.2 megawatt array, tops. That includes on the walls, but the buildings shade each other. It includes over the roadways. So we're at like almost the physical maximum that can be done on the site. Next slide. It's 1 megawatt. And it's twice the size of zero to energy. Usually zero to energy would have had 0.5 megawatt for those 131 apartments. It would have offset 100% of their consumption in a year. So,
Is the PG&E talk?
Could you close that door over there, perhaps, just for, thank you. Okay, so, next slide, though.
How big a battery?
We're getting there, I promise. I'm trying to build it. I was like, how do I start? Do I do it? So, starting with the solar, like what can be done? So, what it results in with our battery, which in this case is a 4.3 megawatt hour battery, I should say. Now, it's 1 megawatt of power. It's 4.3 megawatt hours of energy storage. So my bad, it was late last night. So what this looks like here is over the course of the whole year is that there are some times in December and February when we have some really bad weather in Petaluma. It also, of course, appears starting like at the end of November and December. And this is the worst solar year in the last 25 years that we're modeling. So we're already pushing it to the extreme. This is as bad as it gets in Petaluma. And we run out of power. We run out of power because of sunshine, not because of batteries. I ramped this thing up to 20 megawatt hours of battery. It doesn't matter. The storage is not the solution. We have to have some extra energy. Otherwise, we just have a hole. And we're in the hole, and we can't get out of the hole. So 94% is what we can do. What that means is there's 22 days in the wintertime of hours, but it's roughly days, really, in which we're going to be back on the grid. That's what we accomplished with 1 megawatt of solar, 4.3 megawatt hours of battery. To give you some thinking, like what does that mean for me? It means 2.4 Tesla power walls per apartment, okay, and 8 kilowatts per apartment of solar. So that's not you get it? Like that's not a huge system. 8 kilowatts, while it's big,
that's like a 2,500 square foot
yeah,
single family home.
right,
Yeah.
yes. So it's both a lot, and at the same time, it's not crazy a lot. Next slide. I tried figuring out, like, well, how much solar would solve it? It'd be 23 kilowatts per apartment. That's how you get out of a hole. And it's a total of 3 megawatts of solar. We have 1 megawatt, and I told you you can get to 1.2. So there's no way. Yes, that's the solution, but it's not physically possible. But that's what it looks like to finally get out of the hole. You know, our worst hole is there. We got to make sure it's a little battery capacity at the bottom. So that's getting out of the hole. It's about 3 times as much solar as what we're putting on. Next slide. Here's our solution. Okay, I told you about the battery. It's got a 4.3 megawatt hour battery equal to 2.5 Tesla power walls. So the solution is 30 Chevy Bolts. We're probably going to partner with Meocar, and I want to thank our wonderful Elijah Khan over here for all of the field work he's done, calling all the different companies. So we've met with Zipcar, and we've met with this company and that company to go through it. They're a nonprofit in the Central Valley that gets funded by California Air Resources Board money to get EVs into the hands of low-income households. So great, they have a fleet of 65 Chevy Bolts. They've done a bunch of different cars. They decided Chevy Bolt's the right car. Great, because GM says that all their EVs are going to be able to power your home by 2026. Chevy Bolt's already there. So what does it mean to be there? It means that inside your car, you already had an AC inverter. This took your battery electricity and converted it into other things you might plug in. AC. It's probably about 10 kilowatts of an inverter. It's not a small inverter. If you buy that for a house, that's thousands of dollars. But they already have it in there. It's part of the engine. It's how it works. So it's more the issue of, well, when you take it out, are you interfering with the grid issue? Around here, I've had friends who've been doing this since 1994, taking power out of this town used to have Arcade Electric Car that retrofit existing cars and put batteries in, like Rogers. It was a business. I used to drive their van around for like Earth Day. So that possibility of taking electricity out has always been there. Right now in downtown Arcade at the solar store by the co-op, you can buy a little suitcase that does it for you off the shelf China. It'll void your warranty, but it works. And you can take it out of your car. So these things are purchasable now. With an AC inverter on board, and we're partnering up with a company called Pando. I was going to say like Bambi or something. Pando. So Pando down in the Bay Area, they're making a bidirectional charger, as is many companies. Orange was interested in working with us. I'm not saying Pando's what we're working with, though. We got a grant. So 30 cars, and each car has 65 kilowatt hours in it. If we take 8 kilowatt hours a day during those 22 days I mentioned, now we're fine. That's during the worst weather year. So in reality, it might be only 1 week of the year. But the rest of the year, we have excess solar. We have so much extra solar that we can charge all those cars for free, except on those days. As long as they're plugged in during the day, it's just like being curtailed. So go ahead, free energy essentially. So as we're trying to, in our imaginations, work out a deal, and this hasn't really been done. Utrecht has been saying they're going to do it for years, but they don't even have 50 cars out now, today. We talked with the Go Solar, the company that was one of the many companies we talked with as vendors. They have software for community car shares. So it's pretty cutting edge, but at the same time, the Energy Commission is a law saying they're supposed to like make this start to happen by 2028. So the cars mostly have it. Tesla has it, Nissan has it. Most cars already physically have everything that they need, and it's just a little software talky-talk. So this is our solution. You say, but where does the energy come from? It is the grid. That's the main thing, is that last 6%, we could have this be a self-sufficient community 100% of the time if people can leave, and go get some electricity elsewhere. That is the one challenge, is that I don't have a solution for that last 6% for the development. This is a way of getting electricity elsewhere in. Fair, okay? But there's offshore wind turbines planned that work all winter, right? And we get out of this administration and the ocean opens up again. That's our final solutions. We only need a little bit of winter power when the wind is strongest. I mean, it's howling out there, like 20 miles an hour, about 15, 20 miles offshore. Intensely strong wind. It's like 40% capacity factor. It's just, tell me, like, how good is that wind resource? Schatz is working on.
It is the best air resource that we have available for California that has accessible oceans. That's not going to be military ocean.
Right.
Leading from here up into Oregon. And there's actually a consortium between Cal Poly Humboldt, the Schott Center, I think it's Oregon State University, and PNNL. They're a consortium right now called POWSI, and they're doing a lot of offshore wind research. And so it's the strong resource that's completely complementary to solar.
Yeah.
It's the perfect.
And those wind turbines are floating offshore wind turbines. They have to invent something because off the continental shelf it's too deep to put a platform. They got to anchor it to the bottom so it kind of floats around.
Learning from the oil rigs.
Yes.
Right? Wow.
Imagine that, one energy system to another. Who would have thought they'd have something to say? Finally, something we can go out of them. So that is the solution. This is a Northern California energy resource. This is going to be pumping so much power into Northern California just generally. The wire goes straight down to the Bay Area. So
If we could also open up the markets in the the energy day ahead market, increase our transmission, the Pacific, I was on the...
right, we can get it from mountain energy also.
Yeah.
We can get it from hydro, like we could...
They actually showed that we wouldn't have needed all those gas turbines in the Pacific Northwest if we could use your solar that you're
Right.
curtailing in California and give you our hydro in winter months.
We have a blog on this, Dea, who wasn't able to make it, but she co-wrote it. Hosanna helped out making it happen. It's about the law that's trying to get passed, so we have a market that's regional so we can trade renewable energy and stop having gas power plants just for lack of connectivity.
Yeah.
Next slide. Okay, so this is the summary of what I've been sort of like showing graphs. It's pictures. The idea is that coming into the grid, we have 7 interconnections to the grid. These connections here, we have 91 EVs that are bidirectional connecting to the grid, but not to our battery. We know that PG&E isn't accepting this yet. We're just putting in the chargers, and we also don't have cars there yet. We're just doing it because, hey, it's a research grant, we can't. So then, 51 cars have an automatic transfer switch that is not turned on. This is a standard device used for generators. When your house goes out of power and you have a generator outside, automatic transfer switch clicks in, right? You're Mr. Genset. You understand? So we have an automatic transfer switch to our genset, which is 51 cars. Those 51 cars, that's the total number of parking spaces. I said 30 on the previous slide because that's the number that MeoCar thinks that they can work on with us. More than that, they're like, I don't think we can get a grant. I don't think we can pull it off. So 30 is what we think we'll have on day one. Then we have a solar array, 1.1 megawatt, and we're not connecting it to the grid. That's one of the delays. They can delay you for 3 years hooking up your solar array. I have a project in Delano, SoCal Edison, 3 years later. That SOB of a utility has not hooked up this low-income farm worker family with their zero-energy solar array, and everyone's paying their outrageous bills. And they've had like 12 plan check comments, each one an individual one, so you can never fix them all at once. It's just like, now you got another 12 days to respond or you're out of the queue. And it's like, but I don't. So this kind of slashing, beating kind of experience from utility while they also won't even show up, is the problem that Dan Johnson has on all of his projects. They won't communicate with you in design. They won't give you a staff person to work with. They'll change the design on you. They change the green book rules every year. The inverter you chose for your system, now they don't like that inverter. It just never ends, this regulatory churn called the green book, unregulated process that they have. So we hook up the solar array to the battery, that off-grid request. Hypothetically, we could open this apartment complex with just that. If we can provide the solar and the power and the batteries with automatic transfer switches, the utility could come in later. Like, we have to promise a bank that we can open the place. We have to promise a city that we can open the place. We have to promise various regulatory agencies that this is healthy and safe, but we can perhaps accelerate the hookup by half the year or more just by getting the battery there in time. Because winter's our only stress point. If we hook up in March, we're golden until November. Okay, the battery then, this is not our original proposal. I'm trying to explain to you what actually works. We had tons of other ideas that the utility would not let us do. They wouldn't let us take the whole development off grid with one big old switch. Like, absolutely not, that's illegal. They wouldn't let us master meter because one battery. No, that's illegal. They had all sorts of things we couldn't do. So what they can do is that PG&E and the rest of the utilities don't care if you have a generator. If you put in a standard generator automatic transfer switch but hook it up to a big battery, you don't even have to tell them. That's how they feel about generators. Don't, like, whatevers. You got a generator, very interesting, but it just, you should probably let us know, but you don't have to get a permit, nothing. So we're walking in this open door that was not easy to find, but it's an open door to then put the battery through to the tenants' apartments all the time and only have an automatic transfer switch to grab grid electricity during those couple weeks in the wintertime. So ideas are like, well, we can just run these people with no battery. We can run these folks with no solar. We could do it with no cars. This is resilience. This is a normal setup minus automatic transfer switches. Utility delivers electricity to tenants. And we're making it so that we can also have a battery that gets us going. We can also bring in more batteries and power from elsewhere in solar. So we're trying to do multiple stacks of resiliency in this very fire-prone area that gets its power turned off. Okay, so that we had to sell it as a resiliency. We had to sell it as like, this is off-grid. We had to sell it as like, this is how you get it hooked up fast. But it is also like a physical manifestation of the vision I'm trying to articulate. Like, we could do this now. We do have cheap batteries. We really do have cheap solar now. It's just an automatic transfer switch for a generator. Boom, you're done. Next slide is thank you for your attention. Thank you, sir. You're welcome. So, first, are there any questions before we do that? Like, thank you all. I love you all very much. It's been so sweet getting to know you. Yes, Cooper. Let's start there.
Super cool to work around mostly PG&E being super uncool. If PG&E was cool, would you have done all of that?
Well, okay, the request came from the 1 to 2 year delays for utility cooperation, number one problem.
Right.
So what if they were on time?
Yeah.
Okay. Predictable on time, easy to plan around. Then we would still have the most expensive electricity in the nation, sometimes from PG&E or SDG&E, as a California thing. And so we can buy the cheapest electricity. Here's the thing, is when we presented to the Energy Commission, we're like, this pays back in less than 20 years. And they have a 30-year threshold for what they have to do as measures for code. They're like, and so this is a code development measure that we're doing here. It's like, you really could, make this cost effective in under 20 years, Stephen Becker. Hey, buddy. I see you back there. Hopefully you're listening. So, it's if we had a fundamentally a supportive utility and low cost of electricity, it probably wouldn't be necessary. And if we had clean electricity in the grid, we would only be dealing with power outages that are involuntary from saving power. And the Petaluma is right next to Santa Rosa, and some of you know that my mother-in-law died in the Santa Rosa fire in 2017. And Petaluma continues to have fires around it. And so when I think about this area, it's like, this is a hot, dry part of California with lots of old trees. And it's not going to stop. You know, LA, this is just not going to stop. And so one of these things that we need to do is having levels of resiliency so we can support people's power needs during crises that are not going to stop. Is it cost effective? Yeah, it turns out maybe more cost effective than a lot of things to stick solar and batteries on it. Okay, so yes, Tanya, and then
What were some of
Wayne. And
the loading characteristics of those winter loads too? I mean, were there, I'm assuming it was all electric.
what is the making the load? What?
Were there any sort of loading or in your microgrid or your backup strategy? Are there any sort of shedding or sort of expanding your set points, or were there any strategies that you're using to make the load as minimal as possible during periods where you do have to rely on?
Yes, so we have the ability to turn off the HVAC system and the water heaters remotely. It's sort of the two biggest winter loads that we think we might see. We're not going to try to turn off cooking, you know, like lights, other appliances, things like that. And the HVAC system, we're using motel type heat pumps that are designed to be controlled centrally anyway. So that sort of fits. And then we're probably using the ream tanks. They have an EcoNet independent system for control, so we can't connect it, as you know, to any other system. But truthfully, we feel like the massive battery, the hyper efficient, we're putting 3 inches of cork siding on the outside of this thing to make it not passive house. No, not that much air sealing because we can't afford it. But instead, it's not cost effective perhaps. The battery and the solar is our fundamental backup as cost effective strategies. So, and lots of extra insulation, but probably just going onto the grid. At that point, if our envelope is not keeping the heat in, it'd probably be better for people to be warm than to turn off their HVAC system. It's just wintertime. And we're not worried about summertime air conditioning. So much solar electricity, who cares? You know, run your AC all day, love it, you know? But
it's that morning startup heat is that we found in these climates where you're now all electric and you're having that heating peak in the morning after you've exhausted the battery. So if there are ways to stop heating, you know, significantly reduce loads during the evening periods when
it would be
charging.
the thing is, you know, yes, like we're thermal storage experts ourselves, and so we're trying to do the passive house envelope to contain the heat or the cool, and we're trying to have oversized water heaters that are 120 volt and raise the temperatures up, and so we're trying to do as much storage as we can while still maintaining a normal quality of life for people. Because it's important for the story to come out that this is totally normal and fun. And hey, they gave me free electricity for my car, and I don't even have to buy it. Car just, you know, like I just rented the car basically. So we are, yes, for storage strategies, yes, for dispatchable load, and carefully thinking about if it's only 22 days, it's just a little bit, you know, maybe we don't want to cut too hard. And our battery is like a 3 to 4 day battery. So we're really kind of like waiting for the sun to show up because we can fill the battery in a day with a good sunny day.
The ecotope idea where there's some indicator to the residents like, hey, maybe just not charge your car right now, or hey, fun times, everybody.
So an effort I was thinking is having we have a swimming pool, and so I was thinking about having the pump in the bucket strategy so that we have a water fountain that shows the height of our battery capacity.
Oh, that's a
It's an extremely cheap way to show very visually and auditorily, because you can usually hear it. Real Goods, they had that. Solar panels that dump water over the side of their barrels before it closed, but it's like from the era of 2010 and earlier off-grid solar. And that was so neat to just see this thing bubbling over on a sunny day, but then you hang out at the party into the evening and it stops and you get it. You know, like sun comes out, water moves. So yes, trying to think of like what's a central, affordable way to give an indication of battery that goes beyond language, that's available to old and young alike. You know, it's like we've done colors. Lonnie, he invented color-based meters. You plug in and tells you how much energy you have, but it's confusing for people. People didn't really understand it, even as much as we tried. And fundamentally, having seen so many studies, read so many studies, worked on it for years, behavioral change is in the range of 2% to 15%, depending upon the incentives. It's very hard to maintain behavioral change also. You have to communicate constantly that you need to change your behavior. It's a lot of hand-holding to get a little bit. So automating it and working around it with solar and battery. Yes, Greg?
I have a comment and a question. So on the behavioral thing, the first battle is communicating, the second battle is translating into actionable things, right? Because 99.9% of people don't understand that actually turning the lights off doesn't fucking matter anymore because
Yeah.
we have LEDs, right? So,
Yeah.
so you only get halfway there if you're communicating well, and then having something that translates to doing something that matters. That's my comment.
Yeah.
Question is, I was a little confused on you said that batteries were your limiters, so I'm a little confused as to how,
Solar.
like,
Solars are limiter. Batteries, we could put so much more batteries there, but we won't solve the whole
But
of
you're-
energy production.
but then the solution was 2 megawatt hours of cars. So I'm just
Yeah, but they're getting energy from elsewhere.
Okay,
So what will
that
happen
was the-
is that, okay, let's say that they start, because the previous day they were getting free energy during the day. You have a 65 kilowatt hour battery, which we're managing centrally, right? We're not having people own these things, so we have some control over charging and et cetera. And we're planning on having about 10 of the 30 cars just plugged in as the extra. So we're not even necessarily going to subject people to this fun stuff that we're doing. So the cars will take 8 kilowatt hours a day out of 30 cars. 65 you start, then you go down to 57, and then you go down to 49, and then you go down to 41. Like, you have a few days of pulling 8 kilowatt hours a day, while people still have what they need is like 30 kilowatt hours to drive around. Studies we've read say people want 80 miles. They want that communicated that way. They want to have 80 miles of range after you take energy out for bidirectional charging. Honda did a big study on it. Utrecht have been doing it, like, give me 80 miles. And they're like, okay, so 80 miles is like 24 kilowatt hours. And then if you start with 65, you can see how if that car wasn't being driven, we could just start pulling energy out of it and then go take it to the other side of the parking lot where we are not putting the car chargers on batteries and charge it up, drive it to the other side of the parking lot. And we just got grid electricity imported in on day 4 or 5. You know, when it just starts getting really pinched, where does the energy come from?
You're saying like 10 of your chargers, the stub is straight to the utility connection, and 10 are on a circuit that's connected to the
No, why
grid?
don't you go back to the picture, please?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Next one down. Next slide. To the last slide before. Yeah, yes, there. Thank you. So I'm saying these 51 bidirectional chargers are going to have at least 30 cars parked in front of them.
Okay.
And when those cars start to run out of energy, we are going to take them to some other utility-based car charger and bring them back. And so we can physically import the energy.
Who's gonna
Yes,
take them?
but don't keep in mind that we have an automatic transfer switch from the grid to the car chargers. So we can also keep the cars parked there,
Yeah. Oh,
energize the chargers from the grid,
right.
and then turn off the automatic transfer switch as is designed and just feed them into the battery, which themselves is feeding through an automatic transfer switch to the apartments. Think about it for yourself. If you had 2 EVs and you could drive into town and charge it for an hour just a few times in the wintertime and otherwise keep your house going day and night, because you always had 1 EV there and that was more than enough power for a few days for your house. 2 days, easy peasy. Drive the car in town, commute, park at your business, get it charged, bring it home. This is technically now. With 2 cars, as long as you always had a car there, maybe you have a stationary battery that you feed with the car so you can drive both cars away for a day or 2. But without even a stationary battery, why don't you think about getting a Nissan Leaf that's used for $6,000? Because that's like a third the cost of buying a Tesla Powerwall. Same electricity, put a bidirectional charger on it. Now you have a stationary battery that was cheap. And you can still drive it away and it has value at the end of the day. And so this idea that batteries, which is the least expensive way to buy a kilowatt hour of battery storage, the global market is for cars. Utility-sized batteries are the minority of the market. They're like 1/3 of the market. The other 3 times that is just cars. So the whole planet's cheapest batteries are car batteries by a good load. Like, that's mass manufactured, driven to your site. It's got an inverter on. All you gotta do is plug in. And you have the whole beautiful system that used to be like all over your wall. You know, this inverter, that battery, this charge controller, blah, blah. Like, it's all not field installed. It's cheap. And I think that, yeah, this delights me, to have mobile electricity that you can go someplace during a power outage, drive half an hour because they have power over there, like that. We don't have to do wires, we have wheels. Yeah? That's what we do.
Aren't you kind of relying on occupant behavior then, the behavior of the occupants to actually go and drive that car and bring it back in time?
Which is why we're partnering with MioCar. We're going to own the cars ourselves.
All right, okay. So
We're
you're
going to
doing
rent
that.
access to them.
So you're doing
And
car sharing.
we're going to do a car sharing program. And that's what we've just seen for any of the real bi-directional programs out there. Like, no one's done this yet. Let's just own the cars ourselves. And everyone talks a good game about how they think it could work out where people individually owned it and they got paid for it. But we're not there yet, so, yeah, Greg?
Comment, I'm sure this is not lost on anybody, but it's insane that, like, this is an awesome solution, but crazy problem that we're having to solve because of the bureaucracy. And
Yeah.
So the question was, you're going to curtail a shit ton of solar in the summer.
Yes, or dump it into cars.
Aside from like a, 10-mile fountain, like, is there anything you consider doing with that access? Like, it's free energy at this point. What
Yeah,
else?
I mean, we definitely added a swimming pool. We did for like just summertime heating because we still have ridiculous amounts of energy.
That's not going to be enough though, right?
Yeah.
No, not at all. No, swimming pool, no.
Yeah.
So I mean, if we don't heat it, so the deal that we're trying to do is to make it. We know that electricity in cars is almost at parity with gas in California, which the C-suite knows that at the utilities. They've exactly tried to calibrate what is the cost of a car driving on gas versus electricity. We're going to charge electricity at that rate for EVs. That's their explicit goal. They're not joking around. It's not like secret knowledge I'm giving you. So our goal is to have the least cost energy, solar, stored in a nearly government-paid battery, and give people very low-cost driving. And so if we have MioCar, a nonprofit that's set up to help out low-income households, so they have a low overhead, I mean, they get paid and everything, but it's not investor-owned, it's not like, venture capital, give me 100% in a year kind of thinking. Okay, so we're going to be able to give away free driving most of the daylight hours, most of the year, and we think that deal, if people privately own, that's what I thought. I was like, we'll give you free driving if you just let us take some energy in the wintertime. If it was just all voluntary. And we have 51 bidirectional EV chargers on a battery and only 30 cars we think we're going to get. And so I'm very open to the other 21 cars. What would that look like if we give you free charging with some usage costs? Because the Pando thing has a cost. Like everyone takes a little cut, but it's not nearly like what happens in normal charging situations. This might be a third, a fourth the cost of normal EV charging in California. So cheap driving. Yeah,
I just want to use it. I was kind of smiling when you went through this whole thing because just a week ago, I just ran this thought experiment simulation on my home. What would it take to get through the winter? So I had my hourly data, and I had a friend who gave me his hourly data from the solar panel, meshed it up, and said how big a battery is. So with 20 panels, the first set was I needed 41 Powerwalls to get through.
41.
Yeah, I can show you the graph.
I believe you.
It plummets down. As you start adding solar, then the numbers plummet down. But then as you start adding solar, your amount of curtailment just goes linearly up.
Yeah, and so
it was a fascinating experiment.
just curtailment is the thing in utilities. 10 to 15% of all energy in the grid is designed there to be wasted, and then another 10 to 15% is curtailed just from gas power plants. Gas power plants are off 10% of the time to 15% of the time. There's nothing about gas power plants that we don't also. It's like you guys have some issues with not supplying power when you're supposed to. You guys have issues with shutting down in the wintertime. All sorts of gas power plant stuff. Okay, so you could do it. If you bought a car, essentially to get some energy, and for just those hard spots, you don't have to get crazy amounts of battery. You just need a little good wind power. Spencer?
I just love it. I love how you're pushing all the limits. I love how you're being so innovative.
Yeah.
A couple things really cool that stood out to me that I love. Okay, well, what's all the different options? And it's amazing. The 2 megawatts of additional solar, it costs $4 million. The cars are $1 million plus 3 cars.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's such a great math column. And
way cheaper to buy the cars
yeah.
than it is.
It's a great solution. And the one thing I'd say is that we talked about solar and storage backup. In this design, the grid's backup.
Yes. Yeah, we knew that going in.
That's amazing. I mean, that's the future.
That's the future, is that we only need the grid a little bit. Yeah. It's large groups of us have been failing all the way, having conversations which said, that didn't work, and what are we going to do? And like this is edgy, but it does show us that we only need a grid really for the winter time. We only need extra power then. We don't, maybe the grid's good for exchanging power between cities and all that kind of stuff, but so far as do we need power plants, specifically the premise at the beginning, do we need those gas peaker power plants? We don't need them during the summer, which they're designed for. Do we need them in the wintertime when we have hydro and we have wind available? Could we have a small grid for the wintertime worth of power that was all clean? Is that where we're going now with the advent of cheap batteries? That's blowing my mind. In the 3-4 years now that we've been working on this, the decline in the price of batteries at large scale, Tesla batteries, it's way more expensive now to install. It's the same thing as solar. Solar, the panels used to be the most expensive when they were like $5 a watt, and now they're 15 cents a watt. Now the expensive part is the labor to install it. It used to be that the battery was expensive. The battery, if we're going to spend like $6 million on this battery, plus then that includes 20-year warranties and everything, we're prepaying a ton of things to get the tax credits to pay for everything. So O&M and warranty, everything's chunked in that $6.7 million. So I think I lost my train of thought. Shit. What does that mean? I forget. You're saying
Cost coming down.
cost coming down. Thank you. So now that battery price was like $800,000 of the $6 million for the 4 megawatt hour battery, and that was more like $2.5 million when we started. Like radical drops in the cost, and they're not done. The price has been dropping even in the last 6 months when we're doing contracting. This thing doesn't get put in for a year and a half. Who knows what it's supposed to cost then? But yes.
So on that note, do you think batteries for single-family homes, the prices are going to be dropping? Because batteries are still very expensive.
Cars?
Do you think we're going to transition to just charging from cars?
Yes. I think that that's Tesla's big fear. They were slow, but now all of Tesla's have bidirectional chargers built into them. They just had to deal with it. For a while, they'd show up at conferences and say, we don't like that idea, we don't want our cars used that way, blah, blah, blah. Right. But Nissan has warranted their cars today now for bidirectional charging as much as you want. It says explicitly, go for it. 3-4 times a day. We'll shut off the car if there's an issue. Otherwise, have fun. Yes, Tom?
Bolt, is that going to continue to be manufactured, and have they approved
Yes.
bidirectional charging?
Yes, they've said they're doing a 2026 model, they're coming out with it, and they're doing bidirectional charging within it. And as we know, the attack by the Trump administration on EV car standards and et cetera is being resisted by the auto industry because they're having their lunch eaten in Eurasia. They're losing market share everywhere with their reluctance to convert. And so the smart-minded CEOs are like, China is one of the largest markets in the world, and we can't compete there with BYD. If BYD was allowed to come to the United States without a 200% tariff, we would all be buying BYDs for $17,000 to get a 65 kilowatt hour car and be racing around on like, woo woo. And it's only because of tariffs that we don't have BYD here eating American auto industry for lunch. It's only because of military considerations that we're keeping our auto industry here. They were the ones who were converted to tanks in World War II. Hopefully we never forget that. So it's like we are keeping our auto industry sheltered from what is actually happening in the rest of the world. And our auto industry is going to become a little stupid island unless they convert. And they are. Like GM is fully aware, and they've said to the Trump administration, we don't support this. We need to do the EV thing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but for like vehicle to X, it's all software lockout. Like
Yes.
there's no technology, there's no hardware
Right.
that's needed. It's just because they're waiting for the regulatory.
And that's what I was telling you, but you can go get one at the solar place next to the co-op and buy one now and take it home.
I know somebody who basically hacked their 2018 Tesla and is doing that right now.
Exactly.
It's just a software.
Not a technical issue. It's just warranty and software.
And regulation.
Oh, yes.
I mean, by far the biggest impediment to bidirectional are the regulators and
Yes.
the utilities,
Yes.
not the technology.
And you
That's why
see,
it's software.
we know. I mean, they won't even have a conversation about bidirectional charging unless we just put it into a battery, and then they have no involvement at all. That's the only way that we're doing it. Yes, Wayne?
Yeah, a battery cost is still gonna come down, and sodium batteries are coming online now. There are already cars in China that use those, and they're gonna, there's no.
Yeah, I guess, Abhida, you're saying, are battery costs coming down? Yes.
Sodium batteries?
Sodium batteries. And the other thing I wanted to mention, which I actually learned from you, was that the emissions from stoves and ovens, the nitrous oxides are heavier than air. So that your pets and your kids are getting exposed to more.
And the formaldehyde, particularly bad, #1 source formaldehyde, which is a very heavy compound, so it's like poisons your pets and your babies first.
So for health.
Yes.
So for health ordinances, that's
I think that's the weak spot. As I'm trying to like show you, if we were to go back to the beginning, like let's just go in reverse for a second as we capture this idea. So we've got batteries being incorporated and efficiency. And this idea, I think this is the weak underbelly, is grossing people out. Is saying 4 cars worth of exhaust when you're boiling your water. Like, I know that people make choices viscerally and emotionally, and then they justify them with their brain. You know, it's how we are. And so I like leaning in on puking people out when it comes to gas and explaining how filthy and dirty and, you know, makes you sick and smells like cigarettes and, you know, it's going to give you a cancer on your butt and like anything. Yes, John?
Is there anything on the horizon for cost-effective on-site renewable beyond solar, like wind,
Nope.
small wind turbines,
Nope.
geothermal? No.
Nope. I wish, but no. I've already done lots of like urban wind turbine studies and I've put them up and all the rest of it. And they're basically, if they're tall, they fall over. If they're not tall, you don't get access to the power of wind, which is that velocity is cubed in the equation and area is doubled, but that cubing power, so even like 1 extra mile per hour has this exponential effect. So you need to get wind turbines up or else they just don't work. They don't make energy when they don't have much velocity of air. And the need to get them up or offshore is what makes them work, and urban environments don't. They have turbulent air, it's at low speed, it's not coming all the time when you need it. You need special circumstances for wind turbines.
Can I, it is interesting to look at some of these biochar ideas or some of these smaller
Our first
scale,
conference had a biochar expert here.
small scale thermal, but one thing that and maybe this is controversial and unpopular, but having worked on microgrids, even with the cost of batteries coming down, you're sizing this battery to whatever your biggest peak is going to be, right? Typically you need cooling, so you've got to remove those peaky, shave your peaks. Why heat pumps are so great, nice and flowy. But as I started looking at them, it seems to me like there may be a justification in the same way that we're talking about pruning the tree with gas, to look at just like community solar, shared resiliency resources. It's more cost effective to have a large, for example, the community in Tenino, there was a utility substation there that had an empty bus. We put a large battery there, 150 kW of solar. The school already had 100 kW, and we just put a transfer switch or a relay that would just keep the school overhead line energized. And you know, you had a community resiliency center. So you had this sort of shared resiliency, and just like community solar, I mean, as somebody who has a microgrid myself, that will never pay for itself no matter how high my energy costs go, and then on top of that, squirrels did $6,000 worth of damage. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I used to say to people when I worked for the utility, I'm like, oh, you want to harden the grid? Kill all squirrels and trees.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's going to harden the grid. So having this shared infrastructure, you know, what about looking at communities where we look at it feeder by feeder or substation by substation, and there's a joint utility community-owned model where the utility is, somebody still needs to operate and maintain this stuff, stop squirrels from fucking shit up, and spread the cost of maintenance operations and the actual upfront cost. Even if it's dropping, it's still a lot to ask of one
This idea of having a solar and battery at nodes and having that be the new power supply? Yes. Yeah. And then so the fact that we have the utilities attacking urban solar, rooftop solar, making it so that they have to build gas power plants outside because they won't, you know, pay for the solar panels to go into the city. We could basically mostly power cities now. Some power from the outside, but all the suburban houses outside of the urban core, they have plenty of roof power. Yes, we should be putting in solar and battery at nodes, at scale for communities, and we could.
What you're doing in this development, like take that past one point of coupling and put it at the substation level with a neighborhood where just like community solar.
We are. So I told you about, like, this is stage one. If we go whatever to the back side, our next step is we're going to Sonoma Clean Power. Sonoma Clean Power, a CCA there, Community Choice Energy, they have a $12 million fund to just work with the community on solar and battery. And so we're trying to design it so that when Sonoma Clean Power is ready, we're going to be then giving our electricity back into the grid. We do have everything sized. It's all the 1 megawatt power amount, and that's the 1 megawatt that's out in the street. So we're like, our system is sized to play friendly with you. We just know that you take years. You know, all of you, this is just nonsense. And our Dan Johnson instruction, Mr. Intense on you, is like, I need this now, I need this I need this now, you know, because otherwise I don't make money. And you're just like, okay, oriented, you know?
I was gonna ask, like, what's like that 18 months or the 2 years?
Yes,
what's
delays.
The value of rents over that
Oh,
period
God.
that you're accelerating. I think that's
Rents, land holding costs. He bought that parcel for $10 million because the city of Petaluma dragged it away from another developer who's going to put in gas. So thank you, Becky, your coworker. I'm forgetting his name. Brian Barnacle, the most fun name in the world. Brian Barnacle, he rode that project to the city council. That's how he got it. Is he organized the community, he dragged away from the gas developer, and Danco came in as an all-electric developer. So, and where was that story coming from? I forget. Okay. Downtown and costs, and I'm getting a little frazzled at the end of the day, just to be honest. I'm like tired now. So my brain, just push it through. Okay, one more question. Yes, Tom?
One of the slides you said that the residents preferred ceramic pots for their induction. Why did they like those?
Ceramic coating.
Ceramic coating.
Okay, so with the copper stoves, we put them out and we discovered, as other people will, is that they had a stove that worked fine. We brought them a new stove. It works fine. They don't care about the $6,000 stove. They care about the new pots and pans that we delivered in a box. They're like, Christmas, thank you. Because most people don't buy new pots and pans for themselves. There's tons of things that people buy for themselves, but they don't buy new stuff to cook with. They'll use like something that's scratched Teflon all over it and some stupid rubber spatula. They just don't invest in their cooking because of our culture or whatever. So uniformly giving everyone, it's a steel pan, but steel is kind of sticky. So we learned early is that if we give them stainless steel pans, their eggs stick to it and it's not as fun. Some people want stainless steel for making a certain butter thing you do the sauce on. My son's a cook. He's like, I like stainless steel. But mostly they want is a nonstick coating, which we know Teflon burns into smoke at about 500 degrees Fahrenheit, invisible smoke that's toxic, and then turns into blackish smoke at like 600, 700 degrees Fahrenheit. Gas stoves burn at 1400 to 3400 degrees. So it's super dangerous. We're getting them these pans. Induction, first of all, doesn't go past 475. That's its physical limit. So we're trying to reduce the amount of pollution. Yes, sir?
It does. My wife put a tea kettle on without putting water on the induction stove and melted the enamel on the teapot.
Really?
To the glass top.
This is the first story I've heard of this.
Yeah.
Is this what brand?
You can put. I have a little induction coil, and I can put a nail in there, and you can get it red hot. I mean,
But they're supposed to be software capped. That's the thing is, I'm wondering like what happened.
This one isn't.
We caught that. We caught that. And it's like I know that they'll advertise they go with their capped at 450 to 500 degrees.
Well,
I get it.
Mine's a Frigidaire.
But that's kind of a cheap brand. No. Well, I need to follow up with that. It's the first time I've heard that. But the idea being that we're hoping to not poison people with their pans and give them a functional pan. So the ones that are ceramic coating now, that seems to be like the cleanest of all the non-stick pans. They are non-stick, but they are ceramic, like the stuff you dip your mug into and it comes out baked and glazed and it's food safe and you can handle heat. Yeah, it's a coating. It's a metal bottom that gets hot and then the coating just transmits heat. And I love them. I think they're terrific pans. And they've got a hardness of 9, which is sapphire hard, 10 is diamond, so they're very hard to scratch.
Just everyone who wonders, just Google green pan.
Green pan, one of the best examples of that.
The best in the country so far.
Yes, I got Faberware? Faberware, not as good? Faberware. I thought they were pretty good. I mean,
Alphalon is good.
Well,
but green pan is better.
There, you heard it from the expert.
There's a way to make stainless steel not stick.
Oh.
There's a trick.
Okay.
Yes, you have to heat up those for 2 minutes. You
There
have
you go.
3 minutes. You have to heat up the stainless steel. Don't put anything.
Yeah.
No
Don't
oil.
put eggs. It doesn't stick.
So hot.
People don't know how to use it. That's why.
Heat it up. Put a drop of water. If you see the drop of water sliding around easily, then you know it's ready. Then you can.
Okay, so preheated pan.
You have to preheat it.
Thank you all.
Then it works. Eggs won't
Isn't this kind of nice? It's like, it's like you're all so smart. So that was, I was going to do that thing where you conclude at the end. And so first I want to say thank you to Loalani, our primary organizer. Ashley?
Do you know what? She did like
half, right.
Half.
If you're standing there, say, and that's our other primary organizer, is Ashley. Yay, Ashley! Yay! And she did it pregnant. I mean, like, look at that. So thank you. Yes?
Thank you to you too.
Right, we all did our work together. Yeah. Thank you.
Tonight, Sean's house, there's gonna be a bonfire.
Yeah.
He's got a good, it looks real nice over at his farm, y'all. Like, if you've been there before, you should still go because it doesn't look like it did last year.
Thanks.
You know?
I'm working hard. I also have a telescope set up so we can look at the moon tonight because it's a gorgeous moon night. Yeah. And so you're invited to come at 7. Give me a little time to relax, say hi to my kids, that kind of thing. And then it'll go. What's that? Snack now.
Snack, no dinner with us.
Right.
Miss out on dinner with us.
And so here's the thing I'd like you to do. Okay, this is an idea from I'm forgetting your name. Tanisha Jean, yeah. Just sorry, like I said, I'm losing it at this moment. So Tanisha, she was recommending that we write things down on the table. And that might be helpful. Instead of us all going around and taking a turn, which should take like an hour, you might want to put something down and we can take a photograph of your comments where you either, I don't know, say the thing that you needed to say, the thing that you learned that was important. I hope that you came here and you got at least something important out of the long trip, like some relationship, some conversation, some piece of knowledge. You know, we worked for a whole year to throw the party. And so it's our hope that something for each of you happened. So if you have a moment, you can send some thoughts on that. But in the meantime, we started off by saying like, times are hard. You know, it's not the only time, and many of us have been through actual hard times for a lot of our lives. You know, if you scratch deep, each of us have some stories to share, right? But we know that as a movement and as a community, we are going through a hard time through this administration. However, what we were here to learn is the paths forward, right? So all of us who have, durability, we have our resiliency, our friends, our family, we can do stuff that's hard because we're lucky to have all that. So we can, so we should. And so I hope that you come away with some strategies that are tangible and concrete to go do something helpful, worthwhile, successful in this world that right now I feel like a little bit hurt, like I'm feeling like shat on by society a little bit because, all the nasty language that's in the media and all the undoing of the regulations that we spent a lifetime working for, all the things that friends getting let go from jobs, like it's kind of painful right now. Which is why I hope that this can also be a healing time. I hope that you got a massage. I hope that you enjoyed the food and that you stared at the ocean for just a little too long and just like it did a little something inside of you, And then I want to say thank you to each of you for the presents that you brought. And I think it's one of those times like thank each other because that like each of you did something nice. Thank you all.